How's everybody doing? It's been a minute, hasn't it? A lot of things have changed since last we had a game. Greenskins got some new units. We had a new race pack. We had a big pandemic, bunch of craziness. But yeah, I finally got back into the game. I have a bunch of new replay saved for you guys, and I wanted to show you some builds against Greenskins. So I'm going to have about 3 games showing some ways that the Dark Elves can fight the Greenskin units. And yeah, so today we're going to use one of my tried and true builds. You've seen me use this one before, and what it is the Goon Squad of the Dreadlord with the Raven Heralds. So yeah, you put them up on the Pegasus, you run them with the Raven Heralds, and you have yourself a Snipe Squad. A unit right here that if your opponent's not expecting it, is going to be able to, melt his lord, as long as he doesn't have archers and things like that to protect him. And another really good thing about taking this unit is that it's super cheap, so it's going to allow me to build a bigger army. And against Greenskins, that's always, something you want. Because look at this unit count right here, 618 to almost 1,400. So he has a huge advantage when it comes to numbers, but we're going to try to make up with that with some ranged firepower. So my army is split up into 2 groups, and I'm going to have 2 different trains of thought. For my main killing power, we're going really elite. I'm going some lawnmowers. I have 3 units of Harganeth Executioners with a Blackguard and Nagaron supported by the Death Hag. And of course the Death Hag is going to have her ability, which gives the -6. It never lets me click on it. There it is. -5 melee attack and speed. Now you combine that with the water right here, this blood, I guess you would call it. It's going to give a penalty till speed, which will give my units an advantage, because I don't really need any speed. I need these guys to stay in a Death Star and just munch through all this Greenskin killing power. Now the second part of my army is going to be this ranged fire squad, we'll call it, which consists of a bolt thrower, a unit of dread spears who are going to be bodyguarding it, and we have 2 units of the Scourge Runner chariots, and these guys are going to do a really good job of dealing with Greenskin cavalry, any rogue idols, spiders, things like that. These guys will just munch through them. I think the Scourge Runners are an awesome unit. Of course, the Bolt Thrower is going to be targeted on his biggest threat, which will be one of these spider units right here. And last but not least, we do have a unit of Dark Riders with shields, and these guys are just going to be trying to screen all this range power of my opponent. So yeah, that's my build, guys. We have the killing power and we have the skirmish, melt my opponent from afar kind of unit. And for my enemy right here, we have a really cool guy. He's bringing a new unit right here, a Goblin Great Shaman up on a spider. So yeah, that's really cool. It's one of the new units that they got in the DLC, was this mount. So he's going to go with the dual spider. He has the Ragnarok Queen, and this is going to be really scary. I'm going to have to really melt those things down from afar, because I don't have that much anti-large. I have 1 Blackguard, but then just a bunch of Harganeth Executioners and things like that. For his front line, it's just a bunch of goblins, pretty standard, but with the wall, these guys will do a lot of damage. So, you never want to underestimate Greenskins. But he has a bunch of Savage Orc Biggins, and these guys are pretty powerful. They do have that physical resist. They have some pretty good combat stats of 48, 22, but yeah, like I said, they have like a 20% physical resistance. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely kind of glass cannony, but they'll survive a lot longer than you think. Then my opponent has a whole bunch of skirmishers. He has a unit of Savage Orc Savage Orc Boar Boys. Looks like he has 2 of those, which is going to be put some pressure, do some cycle charge and things like that. Then he has some Spider Riders in here in the woods, and a whole bunch of Goblin Wolf Riders on this side. So that's the builds. It's really going to come down to this range unit right here, melting these down before my muscle gets into the battle. So let's go ahead and start it, guys. So right off the bat, I'm going to see his little Vanguard right here. I'm going to send the Dark Riders in to just screen, to try to tar pit these guys. It's going to allow my Scourge Runners to turn around and start shooting these guys. And you can see, yeah, they can fire while moving. I'm going to send my Lord and pretty much everything, and I have to deal with this threat because I'm so invested into this Bolt Thrower and things like that. So yeah, my range units are going to start opening up, and we're just going to melt these guys really quick. Here comes the Bolt Thrower. It's going to start opening up on the Ragnarok Queen. I figured it would be a little bit of a bigger threat than the actual Goblin Great Shaman. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my Lord to melt him anyway. So I want to melt that Arachnid Queen and, try to get them as weak as possible. You can see that this army group right here is just slowly moving up. I'm trying to keep their stamina low. And we are going to be able to break one of these Goblin Wolf Riders. So yeah, these Scourge Runners, the Dreadlord, the Pegasus, and the Dark Knights is just pretty much just keeping these guys all from being able to get into my Bolt Thrower. And we're just melting them. We're doing some really good damage. Now my opponent is going to get a spell which is going to slow these guys. Gork will fix it, so it's going to lower the speed. It's going to allow him to be able to pull back a little bit, but seeing that there's only 2 units of these and the Dark Riders are screening them, I'm going to pull my Lord and the Raven Heralds and start trying to melt that Goblin Great Shaman. So yeah, you can see the Scourge Runners are still just firing into these guys. The Bolt Thrower is firing in the range. I'm keeping the Dread Spears here for protection, and we're just going to try to do as much damage as we can. And my opponent doesn't have any ranged firepower. He just has the archers on these Goblin Great Shamans. But yeah, we're going to be able to do a lot more damage. Look at that. Each volley is taking like a, you know, an eighth of his health. So yeah, we're looking really good right here. Over on this side, you can see that my opponent is springing the trap with these Forest Spider Riders, and I'm going to send the Dark Riders in here to shoot. It's going to slow it down right here, and we are going to be able to clip them, and I do have these spear units here too, which I can come to assist. And yeah, this whole time my Scourge Runner chariots are providing that overwatch. They're melting these guys. I mean, these guys have some pretty good armor too, 90 armor, so they're going to be able to tank a lot of the shots from the Goblin Wolf Riders. Over here, my Dreadlord and his little bodyguard Raven Heralds are doing a really good job. We're melting the Goblin Great Shaman. There's not much he could do. He's taking a lot of damage, and yeah, we're just taking advantage of this hill and the distance that my opponent has. All meanwhile, this really scary goon squad is traversing. We're trying to get into the units, and we've kind of separated his army too. Now my opponent is going to get a really good charge right into these Harganeth Executioners. There's nothing I can really do about it, but I'm going to send the Death Hag and the Blackguard to try to chase him. But yeah, here comes the Harganeth Executioners. It's going to slow it down. They're going to charge right into these goblins. And yeah, we'll absolutely just shred through these guys. But we do have the Arachnoid Queen. But the whole time it's getting focus fired from the Bolt Thrower. Over here you can see that my Dark Riders have broken from these Spider Riders, but I am trying to chase away with the Dread Spears. And yeah, my Scourge Runners are doing a good job. They're firing while moving, and they're just slowly chipping those guys away. Same with over here with the Raven Heralds and my Lord. We're just, you know, we got him down to about half health, and his leadership's about to break. Now, I did change the Bolt Thrower to start shooting this. I wanted to melt him quicker, and yeah, I figured if I could get a leadership bomb on him, it would break. And you can see he is trying to use the Crown of Command, which will make him unbreakable, but we're sending the Death Hag, the Blackguard and Agron, and everything I can to try to reinforce this little army. But my opponent does get a really good. Gork will fix it, lowering the speed on top of this water right here. It's slowing him, and yeah, he's definitely doing about as much damage as he can. He does use a Vindictive Glare, and he did some good damage to my Dreadlord, but he's not going to be able to melt him. He has no ranged, really, firepower, and yeah, you can see he is going to be about dying. My opponent does collapse onto the Bolt Thrower, which is unfortunate, but I did get as much value as I needed from it. I am going to pull the Scourge Runners back. The spear units I'm trying to come here to reinforce, and you can see that we have been able to melt the Goblin Great Shaman, and we've pretty much just melted all his infantry units. Now, we do have the Death Hag. She's in here at full health, and boom, there goes my opponent. His Lord does drop, and that is going to drop the leadership of the Greenskins. You can see we're already having some terror routes, and my units are at relatively really good health. We have, 3 full healths of Blackguard. Harganeth Executioners. We have a full life of Blackguard. My Lord is still at good health, and my opponent just has a bunch of skirmish and goblins. So yeah, I think it's looking pretty good for us, and you can see the balance of power starting to reflect that for me. Scourge Runners are just sitting here now in the back, just providing that ranged overwatch. Each volley is melting about 1 to 2 different units, and yeah, now we just have this big Death Star here right in the middle, and this is exactly what my units excel at, these lawnmowers. And you can see this whole time, the Lord and the Raven Herald have just been melted. We've killed his Lord, and you can see now we're just trying to focus the Arachnoid Queen, and her leadership is falling. Keep in mind the Death Hag is giving that -5 melee attack, but my opponent does use the wall, so it's going to give him a little bit of a leadership and bonus and be able to maybe keep him in the game a little bit. He is doing some good charges, rear charges with the Forest Goblins. And yeah, and you can see still these Scourge Runners still have a lot of ammunition. They're breaking units, and I just love these units. They're such a good counter to Greenskins, who will usually have a lot of fast, cheap skirmishers, but they just don't have no armor piercing, so the Scourge Runners will be able to beat them. Spears here are just kind of keeping these guys from chasing them, keeping them in range, and in an infantry fight, yeah, we're just shredding through all these Greenskins. I mean, they just really don't have a chance. I mean, he does have some numbers. Anything could really happen, but yeah, we have used all the ammunition of the Raven Herald, so I'm going to send them in now to try to escort some of these units off the map. It's really annoying how they break, but then they'll come back, so I figured, alright, I mean, there's really no use for them now. They've done their job. They've killed the Lord, but my Lord still does have a lot of ammunition, and he's just firing into that Arachnoid Queen, and you can see his Savage Orcs just don't stand a chance against Harganeth Executioners, plus with the terror of the Death Hag, and yeah, we're just breaking all his units right here, and we do break the Arachnoid Queen. You can see the Scourge Runners are just shooting in, Each one of those things is anti-large, and it's just doing some damage. We're just chipping away a couple hundred, HP each volley. Over on this side, you can see the Raven Heralds are just trying to chase these Goblin Wolf archers away. And yeah, they're taking a lot of damage, but at this point, they've done their job. They're expendable. Over here, these Spear units are just trying to chase and escort those guys away. I'm just trying to keep his units separated while I can prioritize the bigger threats, like this Arachnoid Queen. Now, I have broken him. I want to make sure he doesn't return. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to send my Lord to escort him off the map, and I have to be careful not to separate. Now, if I start sending units off to chase, what he's going to do is he's going to start cycle charging me and picking me off. So I need to kind of keep my units in a big group right here, take advantage of my Flying Lord. He's going to be providing pressure onto this Arachnoid Queen, and yeah, making sure she doesn't return. And you can see the Scourge Runners have used all their ammunition, so I'm just going to cycle charge them in, do as much damage as I can. And yeah, over here, these Boar Riders, they're doing some pretty good. They're taking advantage of my troops fighting in the water right here. We can't really keep up, and they're getting some charges in, and he has kind of beaten these Hargoneth Executioners, so I have to be careful. I am kind of chasing, which is a mistake. I need to keep them next to my Blackguard, but I will eventually realize that and kind of start getting my troops back together. You can see I'm keeping this Death Star right here in the middle, doing everything I can just to try to escort all these shaft units off the map. And you can see he does break the Raven Heralds. They're going to GG out the map. Over here, the Spears are just dealing with these Goblin Wolf Riders. And at this point, guys, yeah, it's my game to lose. As long as I don't make any big mistakes, I can win. And you can see the Dreadlord is going to start chasing off this Arachnoid Queen. It is annoying to have to escort it, all the way off the map. I wish I had my Lord over here to be shooting some of these things, but if you look, my opponent is just routing everywhere, and I'm keeping things together as much as I can. The Blackguard with the Death Hag, he does kind of catch these Hargoneth Executioners by themselves. This was one of the mistakes I was talking about. I was not keeping them together, so then he's able to cycle charge and escort them off the map. And if I would keep doing that with all my units, it's quite possibly he could stage a comeback. But you can see the Hargoneth Executioners are going to be getting the Fury of Cain. That's the cast from the Death Hag. It's going to keep them a little bit of leadership, melee attack, charge bonus. Just pretty much just beef them up. And we are breaking these units. The balance of power is just more and more coming into my power. You can see I'm using these Scourge Runners to try to just tie up units. We're cycle charging, and all while the Dreadlord is going to be able to escort that unit off the map, and we'll just kind of fast forward it, because at this point, it is pretty much my game. You can see I just kind of keep things grouped up. I'm just using the terror of the Death Hag. Whenever she comes in here, she pretty much terror routes things. I'm going to send these Hargoneth Executioners to deal with these goblins. They are pretty much beat up, but yeah, I mean, there's not much they can really do against a Death Hag at full health and these Blackguard. And you can see, yeah, she's going to come in here, get a charge. My opponent does have this little goon squad over here, but my Lord is back into the battle. I'm going to start focusing his armor piercing into these Savage Orc Biggins. And yeah, you can see each one is killing a couple volleys. The Death Hag just excels at killing Savage Orc or infantry units pretty much at that. So, and yeah, that's going to be GG and a win for the Dark Elves. So, good game to my opponent. We'll go ahead and look at the in-screen breakdown and talk about some of the keys for my success. And yes, JG Schultz, 9K. We played a lot of cool games. He also has a channel too, Sultan, I think it was. He showed me one of the replays he did with Indie Pride, so I just wanted to kind of give him a shout out. Good game, my friend. And one of the keys for my success, guys, in this build was definitely the Dreadlord with the Pegasus. That is such an overlooked but awesome synergy. You've seen me use this tactic so many times. It works, guys. Try it. Your opponent doesn't expect it, and it's going to work. The Scourge Runners did an amazing job for me. They pretty much screened all these freaking Goblin Spider Riders. They just don't have enough armor piercing. And with the 90 armor of these Scourge Runners, it works every time. Bolt Thrower was able to melt his Lord and the Arachnoid Queen with the support of my Dreadlord and my little, infantry corps here with all these elite troops. There was really nothing he could do. He really needed to do some ranged firepower, cycle charging to be able to wear those guys down. But I had his army separated. I was able to kind of just control the pacing of the map. I was able to pick my engagements because I had the mobility factor, and things just kind of worked. And yeah, my opponent did have some good plays. He was using that blood in the middle of the map to his advantage. He was getting some good cycle charging, picking off some of my troops from, whenever they would run away from the main group. But ultimately, yeah, the ranged firepower of the Druki just pays off. And you can see that Death Hag of 105 kills. Death Hag is just so good. I love her. I love her for that -5 melee attack, and it just all adds up. So, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. I'll have some more Dark Elf versus Greenskin games to show you some different builds you can use to deal with the new Greenskins. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. It's Atticus, and later.